So I'm back on this Keithley display board again, and as you can see I've taken the new display out, and I was extremely nervous about doing that because unlike the vacuum fluorescent, this has got fairly thick pins on it, which would have been more difficult to desolder, but much to my surprise I haven't damaged any tracks or through-hole platings. And the reason I've taken that out again is because shortly after I did that video, the designer of this board, Mitt in Florida, designer of this display replacement, had sent me an email about those commas, spurious commas that were showing up all the time. Well, not all the time, but basically when there was a certain character selected, an alphanumeric character was illuminated. And I'll show you what he sent me. Now this is what, go away, that's better. This is what Mitt sent me, and it's very good of him, because I would never have known what the problem was otherwise. It's basically the driver chip, and he says it's not a comma that I'm getting, but the R segment, because this is a 15 segment display, and I would never have been able to work out any of this, but he told me where it's connected to on the VFD, and it's pin 26 which is controlling that segment. So the next thing I did was, rather rashly, I cut the track which goes to pin 7 in the very thin tracks. Well, I can bridge that, that's no problem, but I wanted to find out what that would do, because that controls that segment which is lighting up. Did I need that segment? That was the point. Well, yeah, you do need it, and I'll just show you a rather blurry picture of what I got when I cut it. I got rid of all the spurious commas or R segments, but I also got rid of the lower part of the V, as in volts DC, and it's the same with volts AC, and that's the only time that segment is used. It's not used on any other ranges, hence the fact that you only get the spurious commas on volts AC or DC. Alright, so where does that leave me? Well, he told me that the chip that was faulty was this one, which I would confirm, because that pin there goes to pin 7, and that's the one track I cut. So I ordered 2 of these chips, and they're obsolete basically, but DigiKey had 44 in stock still, and although they were only £5 total, with all the other nonsense, handling charge, shipping, taxes, comes to £20. But that isn't the end of the world if you're going to fix something like this. So what I've done today as I said, I've taken the display back out, new display, without damaging anything, much to my surprise. That was the only way I was going to get this desoldered, because it's just so close. As you can see around there, it's millimetres between that chip and the display, which is plastic, and it would have just melted with hot air. And also, even if I hadn't melted it, trying to resolder these pins, especially on that side, would have been virtually impossible with that display in. And so that brings me to where I am at the moment. I haven't got the new chips. I only need one, but because that one's fine. But I can change that one, hopefully. I don't think it'll be too hard, but you never know. This is 28 pin chip, but I mean it's not really minute like a lot of them are, and I think I can get a soldering iron in there to solder the new one in without any real problems. But I've heavily sort of masked everything off with Kapton tape, especially the back here, because there's a lot of components on the back of the board and I don't really want them to fall off, so I've stuck them all down with tape. And the other problem is the ribbon cable. That is also very vulnerable, being very close to that chip, but it should only take a few seconds hopefully to get that off. I'm not going to do that today, I'll wait for the chips to come. Okay, so where have I got to then? Well, new chips have arrived. Of course I only need one, but I've got two, just in case. And they're curious little creatures. Their legs curl over. I've never seen a package like this before. I've forgotten what it's called, PLCC I think. But whatever. And just before I started the video, because it was too difficult to film, I got the old chip off. The old chip, so that can go to one side. And using hot air, that went fairly well. And I haven't damaged any tracks or anything like that. So that's good. And I had to clean it up a bit with solder wick, the pads. Now it's just a matter of soldering the new chip on, which I will not do on camera because I can't work with a camera in front of me. And ideally I'd have a microscope for this, but I haven't got one. So I have to use this watchmaker's eyeglass to do it. So I'll get back to you once I've soldered that chip on. So getting that chip in was one of the hardest jobs I think I've ever done. Let me move this camera a bit, because you have to try and get the solder to flow underneath the leg and down onto the pad. And there I was thinking it'd be like a 10-minute job. I think it took me best part of 2 hours, because when I checked on the high voltage outputs, and what I mean by the high voltage outputs of this chip, they're the ones that go to the vacuum fluorescent display segments to switch the 70, 80 volts or whatever they use. And at least 2 or 3 of these weren't soldered properly, because I did a continuity test down to the display pins along here, So I had to go in there and resolder these, some of them 2 or 3 times before I could get good contacts, and also on several others around the board. And now I've checked all the high voltage outputs from this chip and they're all connected. I've also checked the +5 supply, which is somewhere around here, and the high voltage supply, which I think is next door, and what else, and ground is up there, and that's okay, and next to it is clock, which goes to a via, and I could check that fairly easily. But some of the others I find a bit harder to check, because things like, let me get my drawing. What's wrong with this bloody thing? I've got pushing it the wrong way. That's my little drawing, and that's where I am with the ground, and next to it is blanking. That was a hard one to check. I'm not quite sure where that goes. Clock's okay. Strobe I'm not sure of. All the HV ones are fine. Another one down here, data input. Not sure where that comes from. Couldn't check that properly. +5 high voltage data out. Another one I couldn't check properly. But I've got no schematics, you see. That's the hard thing about working on this. And without schematics, you're really screwed up completely, aren't you? Anyway, best part 2 hours later, I got just about everything I could check soldered okay. And by the end of that, my eyes were just about at it. Trying to stare through a little eyeglass and solder at the same time, and with shaking hands as well. I got many solder bridges which I had to remove with wick, and I don't want to do any more on this board if I can help it. So I think now I know that at least all these are connected on that side, which are close to the display. I think it's safe to put the display back in, because even if some of the other legs aren't soldered properly, they're relatively easy to get to, whereas when you've got the display in the way, avoiding melting the side of the display would be fairly hard with a soldering iron. So the next step now is to get that display back in. But I must admit, my confidence levels are low on this. Okay, so I think I'm ready for a very nervous moment powering this up. And you're seeing it for the first time as I am. So let's go ahead and press the button. Oh, what do you know? I think that is working. I mean, okay, it's not going to look as good. That looks much better. Well, I never. What's that dot doing? I never noticed that before. Not sure if it's important or not. Let me try something else that's That's, I think it's best to put it back in its the display back inside its case, and then I can try it on different ranges. Okay, it's back in its front panel. Okay, there's that flashing dot. Wonder if that's update right. Yeah, because that's slow update. And that'll be fast. Back to medium again. So I think I can say that was successful. But let's just try it on a different range. And by the way, I'm using the rear terminals, so I can't check amps, but I can test ohms anyway. So I disconnect that, short the two ends together, and stick it on ohms. 0.9. That's a bit high resistance for short, but what the hell, I'm sure it's okay. And just crap leads, that's all that is, I'm sure. If I had some decent leads on it, it'd probably be fine. Hang on, I'll stick some decent leads on it. Alright, let's try these leads. Ah, that's more like it. 0.07 ohms. Fine. I'm thinking that I fixed it. Wow. I really didn't expect that to work with that chip. So without more ado, I'm going to box it up again. There you are then, all back together. Ready to go where it lives, back again. I think it might actually become my daily driver, because I do like that display, and it is a bit bigger than the HP display. And I think just for a laugh, let's try it on my little 1 kHz signal generator. Low distortion, stick on AC, and in order to do that I have to shove that in there and connect it up. What's that crap? Dead spiders as usual. Okay, that's about right. 2.4 volts AC. And just for a laugh, let's measure the THD on that. 0.004. That's about what I expect. Although it does read, my little low distortion oscillator I built does read a fair bit lower on the HP 8903 audio analyzer, but no matter, it still looks very nice and whatever. So I think it's come to the end of the video, but I gotta say a special thanks to Mitt, who designed the new display, because without his help I wouldn't have had a clue how to fix that spurious comma or R segment that was coming up, and he pointed me straight to the right chip to change. So excellent, thanks very much, Mitt. End of video. Bye for now.